the idea has to be good enough to support all of those objects, not as not as these like kind of bolted on tertiary kind of cash grabs, but as central to the thesis of what this universe is and can be. And I think it's taken a lot of care to get it to that place, but then I think the other mark of good world building is that there's a lot more to do and a lot more to explore. Because if you set it up properly from the beginning with an interesting set of challenges and questions and characters inside of this world, any character that you invent inside of this world will be interesting by virtue of what country they're from.
Can you talk about your sort of journey into film 3 and why you even chose to do this as opposed to continuing your proven track record of success in producing kind of traditional movies in a kind of traditional way? Why did you choose to make the departure?
Well, first of all, I would actually argue against that. We have made traditional movies in a traditional way. Certainly we've been successful in the studio system, but if you go back to my boss Brian Unclis he was the kind of the lead project developer on the Hunger Games back when he worked for Nina Jacobson, and they sold that project to Lionsgate, which was not a major studio at the time. That was a very unusual move. We did it again when we made a movie called Bright with Will Smith. We did that at Netflix, and that was Netflix's first foray into like blockbuster-sized movies with AAA star power. And we were the first project to do that there. And we did that, before Netflix was sexy. Last year, kind of 2021, people started talking about IP in a very real way in the Web3 space, in a way that they weren't talking about IP before. Because before it was about collecting, it was about, sharing art. It was about being part of a group. Like those dynamics were all in play in NFTs. The thing that really changed that was when Yuga came out and allowed people to use their ape imagery as a license that they could go and make anything with. And the idea of this is really, really powerful, because suddenly instead of buying into a product, you are buying a product, but you are also buying the license to that product. And you are able to use this to build like a big collective kind of brand building experience. And the potential for the next Marvel or the next Disney exists in Web3, right? I believe the technology can support this. However, for that to be the case, the IP that you're selling also has to compete with Marvel. It has to compete with Disney. It has to be good enough, right? That on the global stage, when you take the Web3 element out of it, when you take the innovation of the tech out of it, and you just look at it as a piece of IP, can it compete with those companies? And to do that, you have to develop IP in a very kind of detailed way that is hard to do, that thousands of people in Hollywood try to do every single day. And what I didn't see in the Web3 space is I did not see the project that was going to be like the silver bullet. Like that's the one that's going to cross over out of Web3 and into the mainstream, because that is the one that can support story.
I mean, I find this fascinating that you almost building the Runner brand to its entirety before doing anything, which is, I think, what you're saying. It's almost the opposite of how a lot of the projects have been, where they're like, we have a seed of an idea with lots of potential, whereas this is, you've spent a lot of time fleshing out the potential and understanding what it looks like. I mean, I remember interviewing Cedric, and he's passionate about the fabric that the people are wearing in their suits and what that says about them and where that fabric comes from and what is the backstory of the side character, because I need to understand how the village comes together because that affects how they build the cars.
It seems so wild to people who haven't been through this process before, because it's such a roundabout way. Because if you know, and it's been a funny kind of learning experience for me working. This is my first time in the tech world, really, is working on this NFT project. And the way the tech world works is they say, oh, we can draw a car. What do I need to do to draw a car? It's like, well, I need an artist. And then I sit down and they draw a car. But of course, the way Cedric works is, no, of course I can draw a car. I don't need to draw a car. I need to draw the right car. I need to draw the car that makes sense inside of this world. And to make sense inside of this world, I need to understand the political structure, right? So like, how do you draw the car that reflects that? It's just this layer upon layer upon layer of decision-making that is incredibly intentional, where every single element was designed or built or purchased with the explicit knowledge of where it would belong inside of this project. And that's the kind of care that gets you to this place where you create content on a level that is, you know, higher than what you might get inside of a YouTube video or a student film. And I think it was taking that philosophy of a professional art department and using that approach inside of an NFT world is really what, you know, landed us where we are today. I talk about Runner a lot as the gravitational well at the center of a solar system, or like the black hole, like that you can't look directly at it because you're not sure what it is, but you look at the things that orbit it, and the things that orbit it are the NFT and the, you know, and the comic book, and hopefully in the future a television show and a movie and a video game and merchandising and fashion and all of these things that surround this sort of central idea. And the question is how, you know, the idea has to be good enough to support all of those objects, not as, you know, not as these like kind of bolted on tertiary kind of cash grabs, but as central to the thesis of what this universe is and can be. And I think, you know, it's taken a lot of care to get it to that place. But then I think the other mark of good world building is that there's a lot more to do and a lot more to explore. Because if you set it up properly from the beginning with an interesting set of challenges and questions and, you know, characters inside of this world, any character that you invent inside of this world will be interesting by virtue of what country they're from, or, you know, what social class they're born to. And that will be the start of story, no matter, you know, who they are. When I think about Web3 and Film 3 in particular, the biggest realignment that happens is where the consumer ends up on the pipeline. So in the film world, the consumer is at the very end. And even, you know, we can talk about companies that give fan service and give fans credit all the time. It happens a lot. You know, you've seen that red carpet interview where people say, and we're just so happy for the fans, happy we could do this for the fans, yada, yada. But all of those people are consumers. They're all at the complete end of the pipeline. And whatever we create up here, they get to spend money on, and then they get it. And that's kind of the relationship. And what Web3 does is it takes fans from being consumers or only consumers, and it brings them further up inside of this pipeline, and it plants them, you know, not at the very, very beginning all the time, but pretty early. And that way these fans can jump in and they can participate as a traditional consumer if they want to, but they can also participate as a creator. And, you know, one of the things we're doing is we will be sharing, we will be licensing the rights to the profile picture characters, what we call the character collection, to users and allowing them to go tell their own stories with those characters. And I think, you know, that's something that you'll never see from a traditional media. Like, that is something that Disney will never do. I don't want to be the dragon that sits on a pile of IP gold, like a little, miserly protector, which is what those companies are. Because I've been on the internet a long time. I've seen the power of kind of group creation, mutual creation. A lot of what inspired us to do this is also like fan fiction and the way people interact in those communities, which is so inspiring, where you'll see people go and create, novels, literal novels, like fat, thick stories in these worlds that they love so much. The possibilities of going community first allow, first of all, creative elements that we might not even think of to happen, which are fun and exciting. That's just a belief in the power of the internet, power of collective mind, power of, call it like open sourced creativity. But then it also allows a certain amount of control to us, to the community, that we would not get if we go to a traditional studio. If we take this to Disney, right, they will pay us a fee to buy out all of the rights. And maybe if we can navigate the development process, we have a, 20%, 25% chance of actually getting made. But if we can go and build in Web3 first, and we can go build out a fan base, and we can build out the story, and we can build out Runner as, as a brand, as an entertainment product, then we can turn around and we can go to Disney and we can say, hey, do you want to work together? But here are our conditions. We knew we wanted to tell a story ourselves, while we were also inventing this world that other people can participate in. We knew we had a couple of characters that we had the story for. And we wanted to tell that ourselves, and we wanted to tell that through comic books. And the reason for that was comics are, really the most visual storytelling medium outside of film and TV. Like a comic is really a storyboard for animation.